A couple are rushing into the hospital because the wife is going into labor. As they walk, a doctor says to them that he has invented a machine that splits the pain between the mother and the father. They agree to it and are led into a room where they get hooked up to a machine. The doctor starts it off at 20% split towards the father. The wife says,
"Oh, that actually feels better."
The husband says he can't feel anything. Then the doctor turns it to 50%, and the wife says that it doesn't hurt nearly as much. The husband says he still can't feel anything. The doctor, now encouraged, turns it up to 100%. The husband still can't feel anything, and the wife is really happy because there's now no pain for her at all. After the baby is born, the couple goes home and find the postman groaning in pain on the doorstep. Sarah had always loved the great outdoors, and she had been itching to go on a hiking trip for months. So, when her friends suggested a weekend trip to the Canadian wilderness, she jumped at the chance. As they gathered their gear and set out on the trail, Sarah's heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. The sun was setting, the birds were singing, and she couldn't wait to see what adventures lie ahead. But as they walked, a sense of unease began to creep up on her. She had heard stories about bears in the area, and the thought of encountering one filled her with dread. Just as she was starting to feel truly anxious, a park ranger approached them with a friendly smile.
"Welcome to our park. Before you head out on your hike, I'd like to give you some important information on how to stay safe in bear country."
The ranger's demeanor turned serious as he spoke, knowing that bears were a very real danger in the area.
Brown bears are generally harmless, and they usually try to avoid contact with humans. However, it's still important to take precautions. We suggest attaching small bells to your backpacks so that the bears can hear you coming and have plenty of time to move out of your way.
The hikers listened attentively, nodding their heads in understanding. But the ranger wasn't finished yet.
Now, when it comes to grizzly bears, it's a different story,
he warned.
They can be extremely dangerous, and it's crucial that you know how to recognize them and avoid them.
At this point, Sarah couldn't help but speak up.
"How do we know if we're seeing grizzly bear droppings?"
The ranger's face broke into a wry smile.
Well, that's an easy one. Grizzly bear droppings are full of small bells.
An Irishman is stumbling through the woods, totally drunk, when he comes upon a preacher baptizing people in the river. The drunk proceeds into the water, subsequently bumping into the preacher. The preacher turns around and is almost overcome by the smell of alcohol when he asks the drunk,
"Are you ready to find Jesus?"
The drunk shouts, "Yes, I am!" So the preacher grabs the drunk and dunks him under the water. He pulls him back out and asks,
"Brother, have you found Jesus?"
The drunk replies, "No, I haven't found Jesus." The preacher, shocked at the answer, dunks him once again, but for a little longer this time. He again pulls him out of the water and asks,
"Have you found Jesus, my brother?"
The drunk answers, "No, I haven't found Jesus." By this time, the preacher is at his wit's end. So he dunks the drunk again, but this time he holds the drunk down until he begins kicking his legs and waving his arms. The preacher again asks the drunk,
"For the love of God, have you found Jesus?"
The drunk staggers upright, wipes his eyes, coughs up a bit of water, catches his breath, and says to the preacher, "Are you sure this is where he fell in?" After the birth of their 9th child, a redneck couple decided they'd had enough because they couldn't afford a larger bed. The husband went to the veterinarian and asked to be snipped. "Me and my cousin don't want no more kids," he said. The vet told him he could get a vasectomy, but it was expensive.
"However, there is a cheaper option,"
said the vet.
"Go home, find yourself a cherry bomb, light it up, and put it in a beer can. Then hold the can up to your ear and count to 10.
"I ain't no rocket surgeon," said the redneck. "But how's that gonna help me?"
"Trust me,"
said the vet. So the redneck went home, drained a beer, then stuffed a lit cherry bomb in the empty can. He then brought it up to his ear and began to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once he got to 5, he stopped for a second, put the can between his legs, then resumed the count on his other hand. A cute blonde named Brandy found herself in dire trouble. Her business had gone bust, and she was in serious financial straits. She was so desperate that she decided the only way out was to ask God for help. She began to pray.
God, please help me. I've lost my business, and if I don't get some money, I'm going to lose my house as well. Please let me win the lotto.
Lotto night came, and Brandy did not win. She prayed again.
God, please let me win the lotto. I've lost my business and my house, and now I'm going to lose my car.
Lotto night came, and Brandy still had no luck. Once again, she prayed.
Dear Lord, why have you forsaken me? I've lost my business, my house, my car, and my children are starving. I don't often ask for help, and I have always been your faithful servant. Please, just let me win the lotto this one time so I can get my life back in order.
Suddenly, there was a blinding flash of light as the heavens opened, and Brandy heard the voice of God himself.
Brandy, work with me on this. Buy a ticket.
During a recent physical examination, Dave's doctor asked him about his physical activity level. He described a typical day. Well, yesterday afternoon I took a 5-hour walk through some pretty rough terrain. I waded along the edge of a lake and pushed my way through the brush. I got sand in my shoes and my eyes, and I narrowly avoided standing on a snake. I climbed several rocky hills. I had to stop several times to relieve myself behind some big trees. The mental stress of it all left me shattered. At the end, I drank 8 beers. Inspired by the story, the doctor said, "You must be one heck of an outdoorsman." "Nope," Dave replied. "I'm just a really bad golfer." An old farmer had a car accident. In court, the trucking company's lawyer was questioning the farmer. The lawyer asked, "Didn't you say, 'I'm fine,' just after the accident?" The farmer replied,
"Well, I'll tell you what happened. I just loaded my favorite mule, Bessie, into the..."
The lawyer interrupted. "I did not ask you for any details. Just answer the question, please. Did you not say, 'I'm fine' at the scene of the accident?" The farmer responded,
"Well, I had just got Bessie into the trailer, and I was driving on down the road."
The lawyer interrupted again and said, "Judge, I'm trying to establish the fact that at the scene of the accident, this man told the highway patrolman on the scene that he was just fine. Now, several weeks after the accident, he is trying to sue my client. I believe he's a fraud. Please tell him to simply answer the question." By this time, the judge was fairly interested in the farmer's answer, and he said to the lawyer, "I'd like to hear what he has to say about his favorite mule, Bessie." The farmer thanked the judge, then proceeded.
"Well, as I was saying, I just loaded Bessie, my favorite mule, into the trailer and was driving on down the highway when this huge semi-truck ran the stop sign and smacked my truck right in the side. I was thrown into one ditch and Bessie was thrown into the other. I was hurting real bad and didn't want to move. However, I could hear old Bessie moaning and groaning. I knew she was in terrible shape just by her groans. When the highway patrolman came on the scene, he could hear Bessie moaning and groaning, so he went over to her. After he looked at her and saw her near-fatal condition, he took out his gun and shot her between the eyes. Then the patrolman came across the road, gun still in hand, looked at me and asked how I was feeling. So I told him, "I'm fine."